Hi everyone, welcome back again. And in this video I'm going to list out some Django best practices for you to follow in order for you to write more efficient and robust Django codes. Understand? So without further ado, we're getting started right now. And the first item on my list is called fat models and thin views. Understand? So I'm going to explain what this principle means. So it is the fat models thin views approach. It's simply a way of putting the logic of your code mostly in your models.py. You understand? You are meant to have a fat models and are meant to have a thin view. Your view should be used for processing of forms, you understand, handling users requests, processing of data and also rendering of your templates. You're not meant to have some extra logic in your views. It should be passed down to your model.py file. So I'm going to show you a classic example right here. So right here, this is my model.py file. This is an example of a fat model. You understand? We have this function. This could be, I'm going to add the add property. I'm going to add this decorator to it right now called add property. So when you add this now, you can easily access this as an attribute of this model class. So this is an example of a fat model. And here's a thin view. This is a view here. This view just simply helps to render out the template. You understand? It helps to render out data on each of the template that was defined here. Hope you get now. So I'm going to show you what a fat view looks like and what a thin model looks like. So right here, right now we have this simple model, this book model. This is an example of a thin model. You can see there is no extra functions there. But right there, we've passed on this function to the views. I can see right here our view is looking kind of fat and big. Instead, we're having this line you see here is meant to be handled by your model.py file. You understand? Same with what we have here. Hope you get. So right now I'm going to explain what is happening over here. So previously, when we add the fat model, we are simply trying to like check out for recently published books. That's why we have this property function over here. Understand? That's what we're trying to check out for. We get. But right now we've transferred this function from the model to the views. And right here now we are having a fat view, which is not the best way to go about it. Understand? Which is not the best approach of this, which is not the best principle in Django. You understand? So right now we are checking for the we are checking to see if the book was recently published through the help of this function. This function, you see, this function is being called here, and we passed the publication here as the argument for the. You can see it was done in the book title page and also on the book list function. You understand? But in the models, we're able to handle this so easily. You understand? So as you can see, we're able to handle it so easily on the model.py file. On the view, we can see it makes our view look quite messy. You understand? So if our view is meant to handle form processing, user requests, and also to render out the templates. So okay, right now the next best practice on my list is query set optimization. You understand? So when making your queries, there are some ways you can make this query set to get your query set faster. Understand? To get them faster with less queries. Hope you understand. So I'm going to list out 4 methods you can do this. We have 4 popular methods, which is number 1 is the select related. The first one is called select related. The second one is called prefetch related, and we also have annotate and aggregate. So I'm going to explain this. I'm going to briefly explain what these 4 methods do. You understand? For the first one, which is called select related, this performs an SQL join. Understand? It helps to fetch a query alongside related items in a single query. So I'm going to explain that to you now. So let's assume you want to get. Right now we have this model structure here. We have the author model. We also have the book model. Let's assume you want to query a book and also the author for that book. You can simply use the select related. This method mostly works on foreign key relationships. You get, so with the select related with select related, you can simply fetch related items alongside a query set in a single query. So I'm going to show you how it looks like. So right, I'll paste this now. So right here you can see how it works. So right here I'm trying to get a single book, but with this method we have there called select, is called select related. I can also get the author alongside this book just in a single query. So I'm going to make a comprehensive tutorial explaining how this method works. Okay guys, as I was saying before, for the prefetch related, it works mainly on many-to-many relationship and also on reverse foreign key relationships. You understand? So as I said before, when you use this, if you use this select related, you can easily get related items to a query set in a single query. Whenever you use, if you use the select related, and it mostly works for foreign key relationship, which is the one-to-many relationships. But for the prefetch, it works on the many-to-many relationship and also on reverse foreign key. And this approach, it always gets its related items on a separate query. Hope you get. So as I said before, I'm going to make a comprehensive tutorial explaining these two methods in depthly, showing you how they work. But for the year in this video, I'll just simply list them out to you. You can go check more. So next I have on my list is called annotate and aggregate. Annotate and aggregate. So I have a comprehensive video on that, about 10 minutes long, so you can go watch it. I'm going to link the video in this video's description, so check it out, watch and understand how annotate and aggregate works. You understand? So that's it for the database optimization. And if you follow this method I just listed out for you, you are going to have much more faster queries. You understand? The next practice I recommend for you is the use of virtual environments. You understand? So you might be wondering, if you're a newbie, you might be wondering what is a virtual environment. I'm going to explain what a virtual environment is right now. So a virtual environment is simply a Python environment that allows you to install and manage dependencies separately for each of your Django projects. Understand? So for any project you are working on in Django, you're going to have some dependencies specific to that project. You're going to have some dependencies specific to the project you are working on. So you might be wondering, you might be asking, what's the dependency? A dependency they are those external packages you install for your Django app to run effectively. For example, Django itself is a dependency. Django itself, because remember we have to run pip install Django. So you are trying to right there, you just install the dependency, which is Django. We have Pillow, we have CyclePG2, we have a lot of them. We have a lot of dependencies in Django. It all depends on what you are building. You understand? So different projects requires different dependencies. Hope you understood. And virtual environment is that environment that helps to hold these dependencies for each of your projects and make sure that there is no conflict, and also has to make sure your dependencies are not in conflict with other project dependencies. You understand? So it keeps them in an isolated environment that is meant for only the project you are working on. Hope you get. So as I was saying before, a virtual environment helps to keep your project dependencies organized and helps to avoid conflict between different projects that might use different versions of the same dependencies. Hope you get. So it's important to use a virtual environment. Don't fail to use it whenever you're working on a Django project. Always use a virtual environment, and I'm going to show you how to create one right now. So here is it. To create one for yourself, you come over here to the command prompt. So now you simply run this command: pip install virtual env wrapper -win. So right now you need to run this. There are several ways of making a virtual environment. There are several ways, but right here we have this. So this is the approach I follow. So first we need to install the RAR file, which is this virtual env wrapper -win. Once you've installed this, you need to run another command So after you might have installed this, I'm not going to run this because I already have it. So after you might have run that, you need to run this command called make virtual env. Make virtual env. Then you give your virtual environment a name. You can call it whatever name you like. I'm going to call mine now. Let me just say env. Okay, I'm going to call my envn. So enter. So right now, this command is going to create the actual virtual environment for you. And once it creates it, it's going to simply activate it. So right now it's being created. Once it's created, I'll show you how it looks like. Okay, right now the virtual environment has been created. You can see on the left side, you can see we have the virtual environment. It has been created, and also it has also been activated, because you see right here it is inside of a parenthesis. That shows that the virtual environment is currently activated. And right now you can start installing your dependencies. You can say pip install Django. Once you run this, Django is going to go into the virtual environment. You can say pip install pillow. Once you run this, pillow is going to go into the virtual environment, because currently the virtual environment is activated. If it is not activated, whatever you install is going to be on the global space, which is your computer. But with a virtual environment, whatever you install is going to go into that environment, and it's going to be there isolated and kept only for the projects you are currently working on. So that's it about the virtual environment, and I encourage you to always use one whenever you're working on your Django project. Hope you get. Okay, next item on my list now. The next item on my list is the use of a requirement.txt file. So you might be wondering, what do I mean by that? So the requirement.txt file is simply used to specify the external Python packages required for your project to run correctly. Understand what the requirement files does? Remember, I told you before, your virtual environment helps to hold those dependencies, and this requirement.txt files helps to list those dependencies for you to see. Understand? So sometimes you might push your sometimes you might be working on you might be working in a team of with a team of developers on a single project. Understand? So, and when you push your code to GitHub for them to pull, there needs to be a requirement.txt file that shows them the exact packages and their exact versions you are using, the exact dependencies and the exact version of those dependencies you are using, so they can easily install it on their own system and then run it and then work on the project. Understand? I told you before, every Django project has its own different dependencies with their unique versions, with their different versions. So you can't just work on a team without specifying your requirement file. I said before, this requirement file helps to list out the dependencies of your project. I'm going to show you how to create one right now. So right now you can see I'm working with a virtual environment called newbie. So right now I'm going to list out all the dependencies in this virtual environment. I'm going to list them out in a requirement.txt file. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. I'm going to say pip freeze angle sign requirement.txt. That's modify. And once I run this command now, it's going to list out all the requirements in this virtual it's going to list out all the dependencies in this virtual environment into this file. Understand, this file is not available currently, but once I run this command, it's going to get created and it's going to hold all the dependencies in our virtual environment. Remember, those dependencies are what makes our code run. Without them, our code won't be able to run perfectly. So I'm going to say enter. Once I run this now, we're going to have all the files, all the dependencies in our virtual env. We check closely, we can see we have a new file up here. Once I open this file, you can see that it has listed out all the dependencies and their versions. The dependencies are on the left while the versions are on the right. You can see it has listed them out. So with this now, once I share my code on GitHub, someone else can easily pull the code and then install it, and then install all these dependencies, and then they can work on the project alongside me. You get? So for you to install the dependencies now from a requirement file, you need to run pip install -r and then the name of the file requirement.txt. Install requirements.tsm. Once you do this now, you can easily install all the dependencies at once into your own virtual environment. Understand? So that's it. That's how it works. Okay, and the next item on my list now is your application structure. Remember, our Django project is made up of apps, of apps. Understand? Most times we use a single app in our Django project, but the best thing to do is to use multiple apps. Let's assume you're working on an e-commerce project right now. It's not best to have a single app running the whole logic of this e-commerce project. Instead, you're meant to have separate apps running individual features of this e-commerce web application you're trying to build. You get? So, for example, you're meant to have an app for users. This app is going to handle everything about users authentication, their login, their registration, everything about the user's profile is going to be handled by the user app. You understand? And again, you can also have an app for products. Everything about products should be handled by this app called products. You understand? Product listing, product detail page, the creation of products, retrieving, the CRUD, anything product should be on a separate app called products. You understand? So the CRUD activities, the create, retrieve, update, delete should be handled in the products app. You can also have an app called shopping carts. Users can add to cart that can be on a separate app. You understand? So breaking your code into app aids it simply helps to promote modularity. Your code is broken down into separate modules, which is super important, and also it aids reusability. You can use those apps you created on a different Django project. You can use those apps because right now they are all independent of each other. You understand? When you break a project into apps, you are trying to make those apps modular, and also you are also making them independent, which means that they can be plugged into a different Django project easily. Understand? You don't have to rewrite the codes again because you already have this app that works on this project. You can simply reuse it somewhere else. So that's one of the main importance of breaking your Django app, your Django site into different apps. Understand? It's not all project requires your application broken into apps. Not all project, but the top. Whenever you're trying to build a big project like an e-commerce website or a school management system, it's advisable you break this project into different components, different apps, because it aids reusability and modularity, which is very, very important. Okay guys, and the last item on the list currently, I only have 6 best practices. I only have 6 practices for you guys, 6 practices. The last item on the list now is the use of CDN. So around what is a CDN? A CDN simply stands for content delivery. It stands for content delivery network. So I'm going to explain how it works here. So most times, whenever you're working on a project, sometimes people use Bootstrap code. They go down to some website, they get some templates, and most times these templates are built with Bootstrap. Hope you get. So they get the source code from this template, the HTML source code, the CSS source code, and then they plug it into their Django project. You get. They plug it into their Django project in the static folder, right? And when they do this, they most times have to go and download the CSS files and add to their static folder, add to their static folder, right? The best thing to use is that you can simply just use Bootstrap CDN, link to their CDN, and with their CDN you can easily have access to the CSS styles that comes from Bootstrap directly, rather than having to use the offline CSS. Understand? When you use the offline CSS, you are giving Django much work to undo. Understand? Django will have to start serving the static files for you. But when you use the CDN, Bootstrap is the one serving the static files for you, not Django anymore. Bootstrap serves it for you, which makes sure that your Django has less work to perform. And when Bootstrap serves your CDN for you, it also enables caching. Understand? Your code, the links, like the styles, are easily cached. That means that even when you are offline, even when you are not online, the styles will still be applied. It will still be applied. But when you use the But when you use the but when you have to go down and use CSS source code, you are making Django do much work, and Django is not meant to handle your CSS files for you. Django is meant to do beyond that. Hope you get. So it's advisable to use the CDN links whenever you have to. You don't have to use the source code directly from those sites. Use their CDNs. With their CDNs, you're giving Django less work to do, and you're also making sure that those codes you're trying to implement are also being cached. And when they are cached, even without internet, they can still reflect on your project. Hope you get. So that's it now. So the first item I talked about is the principle of fat models and team views. The second item is your your query set optimization. The third item is the use of virtual environment. The fourth item is having to add your requirement.csv file to your project. And the fifth item is breaking down your Django project into separate apps. And the last but not the least is the use of CDNs. You understand? CDN, which stands for Content Delivery Network. You understand? So that's it for this project. That's it for this video. If you did enjoy it, drop a subscribe, like the video, you understand, can share it with your friends, and we're going to see in the next video. So stay blessed and bye bye.